Hey guys, today we're going to analyze the WATA CIB population report. I'm excited about this. Stick around. Hello to all my retro game friends, graded video game friends. How the heck are you? I hope that you're having a great Monday so far. The week has started and I hope that you have hit the ground running. Today we're going to go over population reports, the new WATA population report that we know is going to expand. It just came out last week. There's a lot of sealed games on it, and then there's 6 CIB games, which I know for a lot of us, look, I own 1 sealed game and the rest of them are CIB. Or no, maybe I've got 2 sealed games. Anyway, the point is I don't have many sealed games. A lot of them are out of my price range. I've got, the ones I have are Atari. No sealed original NES or Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis games. I've been collecting kind of some of the classics, but CIBs. And so I was excited that they did actually have some information on the CIB games, but looking forward to seeing that kind of grow and expand, and I think that it will. All right, we're going to take a look at it and kind of break it down into, segments here, because it's so funny too. When these came out, there was like people on both sides were like, man, that's a lot. There's so many of them. And then there was other people like me that were like, man, I thought there was way more than this that were going to be on the population report. So I just thought it was funny, the reactions that came through. But if we look at the first game on the report, Legend of Zelda, this is an absolute classic. I do have a copy of this game, a CIB copy. There's 204 of them, and they break it down by grade. So you've got, under 6.5, and then it goes all the way up 7, 7.5, 8. One thing I did notice on all these games is that it seems like the real scarcity starts at 9.0 and up. So it kind of feels like, once you get to 9.0, then it starts to really get more scarce. As far as what the pop report looks like now, I know a lot of the critics of graded games, and rightly so, these populations are going to grow. And a lot of critics will say like, hey, look, CIB, a lot of them will say there's tons of sealed games out there, but there's even more CIB games. So I don't disagree with them in a sense that I do think that these population reports are going to grow. And actually, I think, to be honest, I think it would be healthy if they do grow, because the reality is that, there's 200 on the population report for Legend of Zelda, but there are many, many more of those copies ungraded that are out there. So it gives the impression of scarcity when in reality, they are out there. It's just what level are they at as far as quality goes, as far as condition goes. How many are 9.0 and up? Right now, there's just not as many as I thought there would be after what I'd been grading for 3 years. Now, granted, I know they've got a pretty serious backlog, and I guess the big question there is it like sports cards, where a lot of their backlog is like modern, ultra modern games? With sports cards, a lot of the backlog is modern, ultra modern cards. So a lot of them are year 2000 and newer. In video games, it doesn't quite equate like that, but it would probably be like, I don't know, the newer type systems, the newer type games, people grading Nintendo Switch games, or whatever, PlayStation 4 or whatever it is. That's the big question. Is that what makes up most of the backlog, or is it original NES? Which is it? Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, what makes up a lot of that backlog? And that's a real big question mark. So there are 204 Legend of Zeldas currently as of 11/1. So there's probably more because that's going back over a month. Mega Man only 57, and this is one that I've been looking for. I've had opportunities for the original Mega Man game, and this is one that I played as a kid. I love Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 are like my all-time favorites. Huge nostalgia, even though I know the box art on that first Mega Man game is kind of lame. It doesn't matter because it's got that nostalgic feeling for me, so I definitely want a copy of it. It's hard to find, and now I understand why I'm not able to find graded copies, WATA graded copies, because there's 57 of them out there right now, aboutst. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, another one that I've been eyeballing, 192, and that is one that, it's not difficult to find those on eBay. They're around, CIB copies. I think it just depends on a lot. There's so much nuance within these games. So that's one thing too that I will say for critics is a lot of them are not digging deeper into the nuance of these, so they're just looking at it as, there's 50 copies, there's 200 copies, but in reality, you've got you've got many different variations. Some are a lot more scarce than other ones, whether it be like a first print or a fourth print or whatever. We especially get into that with Super Mario Brothers, where it shows 278 currently on that pop report. Again, I thought there would be a lot more than this, than 278. And even Super Mario Brothers 3, there's 291. But if we go back to Super Mario Brothers, the original one, that is one where there is, how many prints are there? Say in the comments if you know, because there's a lot of game collectors that give me some great advice, and also, they do comment here. I know there's at least 4 prints of Super Mario Brothers. I believe there's 5, maybe 6, maybe more than that. But the point is that out of the 278, how many are graded 9.0 or higher? Small amount. So that's where you see the big price differences. Now, you can argue whether or not we do this in sports cards and comic books as well, to where, you look at a card that's graded a PSA 9 or PSA 10, and you could argue like, I don't think that looks like a 9. I think it's like an 8, or this 8 should be a 9. It's okay. I think that there's good debate there, whether, if you have a WATA 8.5 or you have a WATA 9.0 or 9.2, what are the differences between those? And really just trying to figure out, being picky, I guess, when you're spending, for me, if I'm going to spend big money, if it's Super Mario Brothers and it's in a 9.0, I would ideally like to compare 9.0s together, or a 9.0 and 9.2, because not all those, there's some slight variance with a lot of those grades. And then, of course, the scarcity of the actual game, that nuance that we talk about, which print is it? Is it first print? Is it fourth print? Because that really, really matters for game collectors, and it certainly matters from a pricing standpoint. The one thing I've thought about too with this is, different than sports cards or comic books, even with variant covers, on some of the newer games, there's just not a lot of, now, granted, there might be opportunities for flipping, I guess, with new games like Switch games or whatever, like we were talking about. But the original NES stuff, the stuff that I collect, I just don't see huge opportunities. There's kind of these critics that are like, we're just trying to, there's people in here that are just trying to flip games. And while there could be some opportunities for that, I'm just not seeing enough population here to where there's enough to move around. You need volume. You need to have more to work with here. If I'm just comparing this to sports cards, when less people are trying to trade up, they're trying to maybe take a copy that they have, maybe it's increased in price a little bit over the last, 6 months, and they add some cash to it and get a higher grade of a game. I could see something like that, but I just don't know about, flipping activity. But I would be interested in hearing from you all. If any of you that are watching are flippers of graded games, I'd just be interested in hearing more about that, because I think that's kind of an interesting element that's out there with a lot of these other types of collectibles. Quick flips or semi-quick flips, are you having success with it? It's not something I plan to do with a lot of my stuff. It's really buy and hold, because I just think the stuff it's iconic. These original NES games, I know people will like roll their eyes like, it's not iconic for whatever reason, and that's totally fine. It's iconic for me. It's iconic in my mind. So I'm going to stay with that. It's a part of American culture, pop culture, that's from very, very important decade, the 80s, and I think 90s stuff as well, that 80s, 90s zone. There's just so much pop culture greatness in those 2 decades that, for me, I guess, I think that's going to be important down the road. Not everything, not all collectibles. Of course, we talk about that. Not every little, collector's item will be, but I think certain pieces are going to have some staying power. But let me know in the comments. Guys, thank you very much for joining me here today. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.